Should every race be able to play every class in World of Warcraft? That's a question that people have wondered as long as WoW has existed, right? People are like, dude, I want to play a Tauren Paladin. I want to play a Tauren Rogue. Really just Tauren, at least for me. You know, people want to play Night Elf Mages, and people want to play Dwarf, Druids. I don't know, right? Can we play every class with every race? Some people are going to hate that. Some people are going to love it. And I kind of want to talk about it here today on this YouTube channel. But first, a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Dragonflight Silent Gods. Today's video is sponsored by Dragonflight Silent Gods. Join D&D Legends by clicking the link in the description and checking it out for yourself. Dragonflight Silent Gods is an open world strategy RPG set in a Western fantasy theme and seamlessly integrates classic Western TRPG gameplay inspired by Dungeons & Dragons. Players all over are loving it, as it's garnered over 10 million downloads worldwide and securing the top spot in more than 10 regions since its global launch. Dungeons & Dragons is the world's most popular tabletop role-playing game, and now it's getting even better. Dragonflight Silent Gods has introduced iconic Dungeons & Dragons characters Drizzt Do'Urden and Urtu to the game, as well as offering other iconic Dungeons & Dragons characters through future seasonal content releases. And speaking of Drizzt, him and his Black Panther Guinevere have their own complete storyline in the game. Great news for Drizzt and Guinevere fans. Not only does Dragonflight Silent Gods include game characters that D&D fans know and love, but the ability to create unique characters as well. With unpredictable enjoyment, dice rolling, and tactical grid-based battles, there's more than enough reasons to check it out for yourself on Windows, Mac, Steam, and Epic, with compatibility on both mobile platforms, iOS and Android. Don't miss out. Click the link in the description to download the game and join D&D Legends and Dragonflight today. And thank you again to Dragonflight Silent Gods for sponsoring this video. Let's talk a bit first about why this is a bad idea, or why people would think this is a bad idea, right? So one of the arguments I've always heard is that it feels like it's watering down the uniqueness of the race class combos, right? Like if you play classic WoW, you're like, dude, you know, you could be a Tauren Druid or a Night Elf Druid, right? There's no Orc Druids or there's no Gnome Druids, right? And I can agree with that, because it does feel kind of weird when you hit this point of like, we have Gnome Druids, and it's like, a Gnome Druid almost feels like an oxymoron. Like gnomes are, or even Goblin Druids, right? Like they're engineers, they're building these like gas-powered mechanical stuff that is like destroying nature, right? And so I guess this also kind of ties in the lore implications as well. Like, why would a gnome druid exist? It doesn't make sense. Or even like goblin druids, right? Now, you could say, you know, some of the gnomes and druids have gone astray from that path, and, you know, they've kind of taken up a more naturopathic, whatever the word is. They've gone the ways of nature, right? They're like, I put my gnome brethren aside, and I've gone into the forest and made friends with the night elves and the Tauren and become one with the druids, right? And that's probably what they're going to do. I think if they do go down the route of allowing this, they probably will do that type of lore. Like they just strayed from the path and they're like this, but I can understand it because it just feels weird. You know what I mean? Like, and it does feel a bit watered down when every single race can play every single class. Because sometimes that's what got people to play a specific race in World of Warcraft. Like people didn't want to play Tauren, but it's like, I have to play a Tauren if I'm going to play a Tauren Druid, right? And so they play a Tauren, and maybe they really like it. Maybe they're like, wow, you know what? I wasn't going to play a Tauren, but after playing a Tauren and going through Mulgore and seeing Thunderbluff and doing all this stuff, I've actually grown to really like Tauren. So it's a way to kind of get you to play different races and kind of appreciate them. And it's something where you wouldn't have done that prior to wanting to play that class, right? If you didn't want to play a Druid, you wouldn't have gone down that path. Or the same for Night Elf, right? Maybe you're like, I want to play a human druid, but I guess I can't, so I'm going to play a night elf. And then you really enjoy the night elf starting area and being a night elf, doing all that, and then you become a night elf main, right? Who knows? I think that is one of the benefits and one of the positives of having the race class diversity, I guess, if you will. And I do agree that it almost feels like you're watering it down. Now, on the flip side, I would argue that a lot of the aspects of retail WoW have already been watered down, right? Like you can pretty much already play any class, any race combo, aside from, I think, like Druid, Shaman, and Paladin, I want to say. And I think some of that is just because they require additional assets. In fact, there was an interview with Brian Holinka and Mr. GM right before Dragonflight came out, and they addressed this a bit. This is per MMO Champion. It says, new race class combinations. The team wants to move towards a world where the race of a character is not an inhibitor to what class you can play. Rogues, mages, and priests will be available for all races on launch of 10.0, which they are. Classes that require more work with custom forms and animations will most likely be thought of and added over time, and classes that have strict lore adherence will likely need more setup. So we have our answer now. They are doing this. Like, it's not even a matter of, are they going to do it? Do you want them to do whatever? Like, it is happening. This is straight from WoW developers. Like, they are doing this. And pretty much like I just said, like, Gnome Druids, that doesn't make sense. Well, they're going to do some sort of setup like that, right? Like the gnomes have strayed into the forest and taken up the ways of the druid or the shaman or whatever it might be. So it's happening. And I think my opinion is that I feel like retail WoW is essentially WoW 2, right? Like I talked about this in another video where to me, WoW 2 is here. We have classic WoW, which is WoW 1. And we have retail WoW, which is WoW 2. Like, they are completely separate games. And so I think them doing this in retail WoW, it really doesn't bother me. I think if they did this in classic WoW, where they allowed everybody to do all these things, I think that would be a problem. Because classic WoW, to me, is that old school RPG World of Warcraft. And allowing people to do it in that version of the game is a little weird, unless they're doing like a Season of Discovery type experiment. But I wouldn't want it to be like a permanent thing, you know what I mean? So I think with retail WoW, the game has become very much, I guess, generalized. There's a lot less uniqueness to how the game feels if you're playing a specific class. There's a lot of classes can do similar things. However, it has gotten a little better, but still, it's I would say nowhere near what it used to be, especially after you play something like Classic WoW and then you play Retail WoW. But there is a part of me that actually does love the idea of being able to be like a Mecha Gnome Druid, right? Or like a Goblin Paladin or a Goblin Druid, right? It's just these weird class combinations that I would actually enjoy playing, but it just feels wrong. But I feel like once it becomes a thing, it's gonna just feel fine. Like, I don't think it's gonna be that big of an issue. Listen, we've already strayed from a lot of the lore stuff anyway. So again, retail WoW, I feel like it's just, at this point, just do whatever makes people play the game, right? And I think that would make people play the game more, honestly. So we're gonna see. I'm curious what your thoughts and opinions are down in the comments section below. Let me know what you think about all the class diversity. Should we be going towards this direction that we're clearly going towards, or do you prefer it like it was in Classic WoW, where classes and races were more tied together and you couldn't just be a dwarf druid, you know? So let me know down in the comments section below. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you to Dragonair Silent Gods again for sponsoring this video. You can check it out with the link in the description down below. And if you want another video to go watch, check out Pointless Top 10 Mushrooms I just did. There's some cool mushrooms in World of Warcraft. Go check them out. Go waste some time. You're not doing anything anyway. Maybe you're at work, school, just being bored. Go watch some mushrooms. See ya.